Hello and welcome to Auto Transmission, the podcast from Auto Repair Focus. I'm Phil Curry, editor of Auto Repair Focus, and this is our first podcast of 2026. Feels very odd to be saying that. It feels like only yesterday it was 2025, and in fact it's not. It was just over 2 weeks ago. This is going to be an interesting year for the independent aftermarket. There's going to be changes in powertrain diversity as electric car sales increase and older electric cars come into independent garages. And we did see a boom in registrations about 3 years ago. So with defleeting and MOT, it's going to start happening. But at the same time, with things going on in Europe, will we actually see a pushback on the government's 2030 plans and maybe see petrol last for longer? And what would be the actual impact of that on the independent aftermarket? Because obviously people who want petrol, who can't buy a petrol in 2030 and onwards, would go to the used car market. Cars would get older, always a good thing for workshops having to conduct servicing. These are some interesting points that we're going to be covering throughout the year. The aftermarket is, as I will always say, in a position to lead the automotive industry. And it's going to be a fascinating balance between new car, used car markets in 2026. But whatever happens, Auto Repair Focus is going to be there to bring you the latest news, the latest products, and more. We've got some fantastic features happening in 2026. Alongside a couple of new series as well, one of which is Garage Focus, and I want to come on to that in a minute. We've also got an interview with Andy Waite from Veloris, formerly EcoBat Batteries, about what garages can do to ensure that their customers are making the most of their batteries, but also replacing them at the right time, and how garages can help with that. But first, as always, let's find out what's been going on with the aftermarket news.
The UK's new car market ended 2025 strongly, with December seeing growth of 3.9%. That's according to the latest data from the SMMT. December was the sixth month of improvement in the UK market. With an equal number of ups and downs, 2025 provided a mixed reception for new cars, as internal combustion engine popularity dropped. In addition, electric vehicle confusion continued, while the full hybrid sector also slowed. While the figures are encouraging, the UK's automotive industry was presented with a number of hurdles to overcome last year. Many of these related to electric vehicles, as the country's government sought to push for uptake, while evening the tax balance. Rising operational costs are once again the biggest challenge set to face vehicle repairers in 2026. That's according to the Motor Ombudsman's latest annual survey of independent garages and franchise dealer workshops. A convergence of skills is set to happen, with several issues combining to create hurdles for businesses this year. The Motor Ombudsman study, which provides a yearly gauge of business sentiment, has revealed that rising operational costs, taxes and bills are set to pose the biggest obstacle for 92% of vehicle repairers during 2026. This is a 2 percentage point increase compared to the figure for the same study, conducted ahead of 2025. Compensation claims for pothole damage have jumped by 91% in 3 years, with more drivers than ever seeking for repair reimbursement. In 2021, there were 27,731 claims made by drivers relating to damage from pothole strikes. However, data compiled by the RAC shows that in 2024 this rose to 53,015 claims. The statistics come from a Freedom of Information request submitted to 207 councils across England, Scotland and Wales. Of these, 177 authorities responded, with their annual figures from 2021 onwards showing a steep rise in pothole damage claims. The worst of these was Derbyshire Council, which saw just 224 requests in 2021. This jumped to 3,307 submissions in 2024, a rise of 1,376% across the 3-year period. And finally, the DVSA has highlighted the need for MOT testers to complete their MOT training and assessment before the 31st of March deadline. The government body has stated that each year it has seen an increase in the number of testers completing their MOT annual training on time. With just under 3 months until the final cut-off date for 2026, it wants to maintain this progress. To help towards this goal, the DVSA has highlighted the information needed for testers to complete the MOT annual training on its Matters of Testing blog. You can find more information on this and other news stories at autorepairfocus.com, and don't forget to sign up to the weekly Insight newsletter to stay up to date with all that's happening in the automotive aftermarket.
Now, as I mentioned, we've got a lot of new content coming in 2026, including Garage Focus, which I'm going to come to in a moment. But one feature, probably the feature that really started a run of video features on Auto Repair Focus, is quite relevant today, the day this podcast comes out, 15th of January. Now, I don't know if you've noticed it. I certainly have. There seems to be a national day for pretty much everything in the modern world. And believe it or not, the 15th of January is National Pothole Day. So it's a day when we should be talking about potholes and maybe celebrating them. I don't know what you do on a national day, but it is interesting because the pothole pandemic is increasing. I've noticed it in my local authority. Most of the roads are covered in, are falling apart basically. And when I am able to drive my car, and that's a completely different story at the moment, but when I am, I'm finding bumps and sunken manhole covers and roads that are literally coming apart. Now, one of the first features that we did was actually on potholes and why garages need to be getting involved in repairing and checking for pothole damage. And that's because of what we have termed as the pothole pandemic. And it's still as important as ever. It's if there's one subject that gets the British public talking, it's annoyance around potholes. The problem we have is councils and local authorities don't seem to be able to spend money on repairing roads. And when they do, other roads get left by the wayside and then they fall apart. So it's a real chicken and egg kind of scenario, whereas you do that one, but then that one falls apart. You do that one falls apart, and you don't know where it's going to happen. A pothole has to appear first for it to be repaired. But modern cars are becoming much more sensitive. The suspension setup, the geometry, the ADAS sensors, which in a knock or a whack and an improper wheel alignment can throw things out. So it really is crucial for garages, and I will always say this, it is crucial for garages to get involved. Now, yes, there is a profit stream, of course there is. But we don't want to be talking about taking advantage of a situation. And unfortunately, potholes are a situation. What we want to be doing as an industry is highlighting that, yeah, this is going to happen. You're going to hit a pothole. I mean, honestly, I had my wheel alignment checked so often last year. And we've got an upcoming feature on wheel alignment, which will be landing on YouTube at the end of this month. So make sure that you subscribe to the Auto Repair Focus YouTube channel. Just search for Auto Repair Focus, click and like, and you'll get notifications on all of our videos. Great content coming up. And while you're at it, check out Instagram and TikTok as well. Again, search for Auto Repair Focus. Shameless plug. But we also need to be making sure that we're catering and making sure drivers are okay. Because hitting a pothole isn't nice. It sends a jolt through you. You get worried about damage to your car. And if a driver is going to hit a pothole, they're going to want to get it checked out more so than ever. And they're going to want to come into a garage and they're going to want to be able to be told, yes, this is the problem. Your wheel alignment geometry is completely out of whack. here's a printout to show you that. Or your suspension is damaged, this is what we can do. The winter months are probably some of the most crucial for vehicle repairs because the roads are falling apart, slippery conditions, drivers hopefully checking their tyres, making sure they're okay and needing them to be replaced because they want better grip out there, especially if it snows or if it's icy. But National Pothole Day is a day of awareness around potholes. It's a day of not so much celebrating the potholes, but just showing what we can do as an industry. Potholes are a scourge of roads, and people are getting angry now and talking about it. And there's probably going to be a lot of hashtags around potholes. Just get involved with that. So yeah, National Pothole Day. Be ready, be prepared, and celebrate potholes, I guess. Now, before we get into our interview, I do just want to touch on the features that we've got coming up on autorepairfocus.com this year. The reason I'm doing that is not because, well, yes, obviously I want to champion what we're going to be putting out, because there's going to be some fantastic interviews, some really great insights. It's what the platform is for. But for 2026, we want you to be involved. There's a new series called Garage Focus, and it is literally that. We want to come down to your business, film, interview yourself or your staff, find out what makes your business tick, and also what you think about the industry and what direction it's going in. And that will go up on our YouTube channel. Great promotion for yourselves, but also giving you an opportunity to speak to like-minded garages and the industry at large. I'm very passionate about the aftermarket, in case you couldn't tell. And I'm really passionate about giving garages a voice. And I think, as an industry, there is this annoying perception about, some people will say, oh, garages are going to rip me off, and some social media advertising on a certain vehicle remote diagnostic program doesn't help. But I want to sort of champion you guys. I mean, as a journalist, I very rarely get my hands dirty. I've got a bit of a technical background, but I'm in awe of the work that you do. Those of you who are listening to this podcast, who work in garages, who run garages, I am in awe of what you do, absolutely, and what you do on day in, day out to keep this country running. And I really want to champion that. So, Garage Focus is that. It's showcasing your business on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and giving you an opportunity and a platform to talk about the industry. Now, all we would need from yourselves is a date that we can turn up, the permission to film, and that's basically it. So if you want to get involved, then drop me a line. Now, I'll leave a couple of details in the show notes of this episode, but if you want to get involved, just drop me a line, phil@autorepairfocus.com. Put a subject heading, I don't know, please come and visit my garage. I really want to be part of Garage Focus or something along those lines. But honestly, really, really want to get to know you all. No matter what size of business you have, whether it's a large chain or a small under the arches operation, doesn't matter. You're all important to drivers. You're all important to the aftermarket, and we want to get to know you. So drop me an email, and I hope I can come see you soon. But on top of that, some fantastic features. Have a look at, again, YouTube channel, autorepairfocus.com. I know this is a shameless plug, but this is the first podcast of the year, so you won't hear much more about this from me in future episodes. But really do, check out autorepairfocus.com and sign up to the Insight newsletter as well. Really, really is your platform for 2026 and beyond. Of course, it's not just potholes we need to be thinking about as we come into winter. There's also the issue of battery failure as the weather turns colder. Although I'm saying that at the moment while it's around about 7 or 8 degrees, which feels very odd for a January. But we've had cold snaps and it will get colder, trust me. So, batteries, more prone to failure, and in today's cars, more likely to come into the garage, not just because they're difficult to fit, being located under crash panels or a bit more difficult to do, but also because the electronics in the car are more complex and rely on consistent power supply. With that in mind, I caught up with Andy Waite from Veloris, formerly EcoBat Battery, to discuss why garages should be checking every battery that comes into their workshop, a process which, by the way, found that my battery was on its way out and probably saved me from a cold morning trying to start my car and then thinking about how I'm going to get it to a garage. But also the importance of making sure that even when a vehicle is under test, under diagnostic checks, the battery being powered because it's on all the time is really key. And again, with a weaker battery, especially at this time of year, it's important to maintain the battery as best as possible. So the first thing I should be asking is should garages be testing every battery that comes into their workshop?
Yes, Bill, 100%. Yeah.
And what are the benefits of doing that for them?
It's quick and easy to do. It's a pretty straightforward process. Batteries are normally pretty accessible in a vehicle, easy to find. There's resources available online to look up the correct battery for a vehicle, and that'll often include where the battery location is. Sometimes they're in boots, sometimes they're under bonnets, occasionally they're under seats, which are trickier, but yeah, they're normally pretty accessible. The details that you enter into the battery tester are on the battery label itself, so it's just a case of picking out the amp hours and the cold cranking amps for the tester. A conductance tester will provide a state of charge and state of health of the vehicle battery. If it's on a low state of charge, you can charge it for the customer while you're working on it, while it's in the workshop. If it's showing a low state of health, then you can advise the customer that the battery is potentially nearing the end of its life. There's an opportunity then to change it for them, or for the customer to go away and come back another time if it's more convenient to. It's a valuable service for your customers. It shows that the workshop cares about the health of the customer's vehicle, but it's also worth considering what happens if you don't test the battery in the workshop. So if you're running any sort of diagnostics and the battery's not supported, it's gonna drain it. You've then potentially got the risk of a couple of weeks later that battery's been in a low state of charge. It could let the customer down, and in which case, who's the customer going to blame? The vehicle's just been in for service, repair, MOT, whatever it happens to be. 2 weeks later, the car's broken down. It's natural that they're going to feel disappointed that that's happened. And then, of course, it's an inconvenience. They've got to sort out a replacement. It's probably while they're trying to get ready for work. So they risk having to call out breakdown services or having to go to Halfords and pay more than they might want to for that replacement battery, which could, of course, all have been avoided if it had been tested at the time it was in the workshop and the customer advised accordingly. So yeah, it risks reputational damage, the customer inconvenience, and the additional costs having to be borne by the customer for a replacement battery when they weren't expecting it.
So in that respect, I mean, should a battery tester be a vital part of equipment for every garage?
Yeah, definitely. They're not very expensive. £150 to £200 can get you a decent quality conductance tester with a printable test certificate that gives clear evidence to the customer that you've performed that test and what it's found. There are more advanced battery testers available. We work with Rotronics, who are a real specialist in battery charging and diagnostics, and we work with them if we're needing more detailed charging and testing details, principally around fleets, commercial vehicle fleets, PSV fleets, that sort of thing. But yeah, generally for workshop use, a battery tester is a relatively inexpensive investment.
So are modern vehicles putting more strain on their batteries? I'm